and welcome to the Southbridge School Committee meeting on Tuesday, January 22nd, 2013. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Thank you and welcome everyone this evening. Our first agenda would be public input. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to come and speak this evening?
Jill Congdon, 298 High Street, speaking on behalf of the Southbridge Elementary PTA. Again, I'd like to invite everyone to our viewing of Including Samuel this Friday, January 25th, starting at 5:30 with a potluck in the cafeteria of the former Southbridge High School on Cole Ave. We're asking everyone to bring a dish to share and have a little conversation starting at 5:30. The movie will begin at 6 o'clock in the auditorium. Childcare will be provided for children along with activities. And the snow date for this, there was a typo, the snow date is February 1st because we are expecting snow this Friday. So 2 inches or more, we're probably going to postpone Including Samuel to Friday, February 1st. So I'd like to invite everyone to attend this free viewing of Including Samuel about a boy named Samuel who was diagnosed with cerebral palsy, and photojournalist, his father Dan Habib, discusses about the inclusion of people with disabilities, and it's shot and produced over 4 years. It's an award-winning documentary film chronicling the Habib family's efforts to include their son Samuel in every facet of their lives. It's a must-see with various inclusion experiences for young people, parents, and disability rights experts to kind of come and look at this video and understand what exactly inclusion is. So we'd like to welcome everyone to that. If there is snow, you can check out our website, www.southbridgepta.com, to see if that movie will be postponed to February 1st. Also, tomorrow, Finns from the Worcester Sharks will be making an appearance at every school tomorrow to visit all the youngsters, promoting our Worcester Sharks Night at the Worcester Sharks game at the DCU Center, and that is Friday, February 22nd at 7:30. West Street School and Charlton Street School 4th and 5th grade chorus will be singing the national anthem at that game, as well as the God Bless America. Tickets are $15 and can be purchased. Mailings have gone home once to the schools. They'll also be going home tomorrow and throughout up until February 11th for people to purchase tickets, discounted tickets for the Sharks game. Also, Friday, February 1st will be the pizza party for all the top collectors of box tops and labels for education, their top collecting classes. And there'll be visits, special visits at those pizza parties from some characters such as Clifford the Big Red Dog. He'll be at the school with a couple of other dress character appearances. Costumes were donated by the Southbridge Lions Club for that event. Also, if anyone has to contact us, the PTA phone is 508-344-8431. We're on Facebook, or our email is southbridgepta@gmail. And right now, Liberty Tax has donated one gift basket for a lucky teacher at each school for teacher appreciation, to show their appreciation to teachers. So I'd like to introduce Liberty Tax, and we're going to draw the names right here for the winners for this month for West Street, Charlton Street, and Eastford Road. And we have a student from each school that'll draw the name of a lucky teacher.
Hi, my name is Cassie Baumgarten. I'm from Liberty Tax Service. We are located at 312 Main Street right here in Southbridge. We have 3 children to draw. Yes. Each teacher will be receiving a gift basket, and that will include a free tax return, as well as an opportunity to leave our office with money-making opportunities, as well as vacations.
So we'll have the kids draw the names. And this is
Charlton
Street. Lena will draw for West Street.
For Charlton Street, the winner is the principal, Mr. Montigny.
How did he get in there?
For West Street, we have Mrs. Blanchard.
Oh, cute. He drew his teacher's name. Mrs. Hutchins.
And for Eastford Road, we have Mrs. Hutchins,
He drew his teacher's name.
which happens to be his teacher. The gift baskets will be delivered to the school, to the teachers, on the 24th, which is this Thursday.
Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public this evening who'd like to come and speak tonight? Please come to the podium, state your name and your address, please.
Hello, my name is Julie Hurley, and I'm at 50 Franklin Terrace. I'm here just to mention to everyone in town about a new arts initiative program that's going to be a part of the PTA, and we're taking on, the first task is to take on a music instrument lending library that would be available to all elementary school students interested in being part of the band who may not be able to play an instrument because they don't have the monies available to purchase or rent an instrument. And so I did some research on a model that's being done right now at the Boston Public Schools, and this model takes instruments and makes them available to students at a very low cost of $40 for a calendar year, and that $40 is very much like what people pay to send their kids to soccer or basketball here in our town. And the PTA is in support of it, and we're working right now on putting together a fundraiser that will happen sometime in the spring that would hopefully get us the revenues needed to purchase those instruments and maybe be able to get 20 instruments for both Charlton Street and West Street. That would be our goal to begin with. We also want to mention that if anybody has an old instrument laying around in their attic or a closet, even if it needs some repair, now is the time to donate it, and any donations are tax deductible, and we have receipts that we can give you for your instrument. And you can contact us through the PTA website, on Facebook, or the number that Jill just gave. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Anybody else from the public who'd like to speak this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item number 3, meeting called to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Dr. D'Amico? Present. Mrs. Donovan?
Present.
Mr. Lazo?
Present.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Present.
Dr. O'Leary?
Present.
Mrs. Principe?
Excused?
Mrs. Woodruff?
Present.
6 present, 1 excused.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 5, approval of minutes, the regular school committee minutes of January 8th, 2013. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion, correction, or error? Mrs. Donovan?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. On page 4, paragraph 4, the little paragraph referring to me, there's some changes there that I would like to make, but unfortunately I have not had the chance to sit down with Max, and I didn't know if I could make a motion to postpone approving the minutes till the next meeting on February 15th. That would give me a chance to give my corrections to him, have him update the minutes, and then prepare them to be approved the next time.
I second that motion.
Thank you. So we have a motion to postpone the minutes until the next meeting and seconded. Is there any discussion on the postponement? Seeing none? Oh, no. Seeing none, all in favor of the postponement? All righty, then we'll vote those in at the next meeting.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Agenda item number 6, Chairwoman's announcements. I just have a couple announcements this evening. Last meeting, we had spoken about trying to meet with the EHS, with the town council. I'm still working on getting a date for that. I'm hoping that we'll have a date in February. We'll be able to meet with them and with the town council's EHS subcommittee and go over some of the items that were mentioned last meeting. Secondly, I just want to remind all the committee members that we do have a presentation, some presentations and from the state, and to just remind everybody that we'll each have 2 turns to be able to ask questions to the state. I try to limit it to that so that we're not here for a very long time. So just want to remind everybody of that. Moving on to reports. Representative of the Student Advisory Committee, Ms. Faith Machario. Hi, Faith.
Hello.
The track team is really doing great this year. Led by Coach Barry's, 5 members have actually made it to districts this year. That is captains Mark Butler and Daniel Rodriguez, seniors Al Gilead and Aaron Medina, and also junior Jason Peck. The boys really are actually 2 seconds away from beating the record, which has been set for like years ago. They also made it to states, and Captain Daniel Rodriguez also made it to states in his 300, so they're really having a great season, and they have 2 weeks left, so it's really great. Led by Miss Aronson, there's a shoe collection at the middle high school. We want people to donate their used shoes, but not too used, so we can give to people who can use them. It's still going on, so please donate all your shoes if you have any. Upcoming events, this Friday we actually have a half day, and second quarter ends next Monday. Student Council is also planning a winter carnival and also a Valentine's dance for the high school. That's it for today.
Thank you. Moving on to school committee reports. A, Curriculum Subcommittee, Mrs. Donovan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do not have a report this evening, and there is no meeting scheduled at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. B, Policy Subcommittee, Mrs. Principe is excused this evening, so Mrs. McLaughlin, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Madam Chair, thank you. A Policy Subcommittee meeting was held on January 16th. The members present were Mrs. Donovan, Mrs. McLaughlin, and Mrs. Principe. The policies reviewed and discussion was held regarding fiscal management, the field trip and student travel policy, truancy policy, the sexual harassment policy, the meals card policy, school councils. No action was taken. Further discussion will be held, and a working meeting will be held on Wednesday, January 30th at 9 o'clock in the morning at the central office. So if anybody has input on any of those policies, the policies are online at the school district website. If anybody would care to read those and have any input, please feel free to email that in advance or to attend the meeting on the 30th. Thank you.
Thank you. Budget, Facilities, and Transportation Subcommittee, Dr. D'Amico.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There is no report, but the Budget, Facilities, and Transportation Subcommittee meeting is scheduled for this Thursday at the old high school at 6:30.
Thank you. Collective Bargaining Subcommittee, again, Mrs. Principe is excused, and Mrs. McLaughlin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Meeting was held on January 9th, and another meeting will be held tomorrow evening with the Teachers Union for their negotiations.
Thank you. And last, Communication, Family, and Community Engagement Subcommittee, Mrs. McLaughlin.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Presently, the Communication, Family, and Community Engagement Subcommittee is holding a series of parent forums throughout the district. Forums have already been held at Eastford Road School, one at Charlton Street School, one of which was canceled due to weather but has now been rescheduled for this Friday morning, January 25th at 9 o'clock. Also, the Southbridge Middle High School forums will be held on Monday, January 28th at 9 and 6:30. Parent forums will also be held in the community on February 1st at Southbridge Community Connections on Main Street at 10 o'clock and at the Jacob Edwards Library on Saturday, February 9th at 10 o'clock. Spanish translation services will be available. We have not had a stellar turnout for these parent forums. It's lovely to see all of you here today. I would ask that if you are able to attend any of these upcoming forums, that you please take the time to do that, because even though the forums have not been what I would consider very well attended thus far, they have been extremely productive. The information that we're getting and gathering from parents is very helpful to us and will be as we continue to prioritize what we need to do in this district to improve communication, family and community engagement, and just improve the Southbridge Public School District for all. So I encourage you to attend any of those forums. They are again posted on the district website, and reminders are I'm understanding that automated phone calls will be going home regarding the Charlton Street and Southbridge Middle High School conferences. I should tell you, too, forums, that even if you do not have a child, if your child does not attend Charlton Street or Southbridge Middle High School, you are still welcome to attend any forum that suits your schedule. We'd love to hear from more of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on to Agenda Item 9 is introductions. We do not have any introductions, but we do have Agenda Item 10, presentations this evening. And our first presentation this evening is from Eastford Road School, Songs from the Winter Snow Show from the kindergarten students. So I'd ask the school committee members to proceed to the audience, and they will get prepared for the singers. Thank you. Not yet. Couple more minutes. Okay, I think we're ready. Thank you again, Mrs. Shaw and the Eastford Road kindergartners for a lovely performance. Our next presentation this evening, which I'm sure we'll be rock and rolling with, is a quarterly progress report, the Accelerated Improvement Plan, Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Mr. Nebuchadnezzar?
Yes, we're pleased to have from the Department of Education Ms. Eva Mitchell, who is the Associate Commissioner, Center for District and School Accountability, and then Dr. Nadine Banda, who is the Plan Monitor, who will make a presentation. I also want to introduce Dr. Paul Livingston, who's sitting in the audience. Paul, take a stand up, who is our Plan Manager, who is with us on a regular basis. And so, by working together, we're in the process of accomplishing the lofty goals set for us by the state. Thank you.
Yes. On behalf of the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, thank you for welcoming us here tonight, in spite of the fact that you really set us up to follow an outstanding performance. And we are not nearly going to be as entertaining nor as cute, but here we go.
Never follow an animal act or young kids.
We'll applaud at the end anyway.
So a lot has changed since the last time we were here. Another new face on the school committee. Interim Superintendent Buzz Nimberkow ready to lead the district in the next phase, and an approved accelerated improvement plan. So the last time we were here, the district's accelerated improvement plan was accepted on November the 7th. Actually, no, it was the last time we were here. But there was an expectation that some certain changes would be made. As of December 21st, that plan was resubmitted with some improvements, and the department has accepted that improved plan, recognizing that the initiatives in the plan are now better aligned with the overarching objectives, providing a tightened focus on the work. That a 3-layered approach to classroom instructional visits was articulated in Section 1 of the plan and represents a clearer vision of how the district will monitor instruction. And the plan more directly now describes the outcomes of district and school level teams and the ways in which these teams will be integrated into the work of the plan to support the plan's work. The revised plan also clearly illustrates Southbridge's approach to monitoring student progress using Achievement Network and other assessments. So this was some real progress since the last time we've been here. Now, what has remained the same is a focus on the Accelerated Improvement Plan. And in fact, what you'll hear tonight, we're pleased to report, is that the focus has been renewed, even since we were last present. So I want to remind you that whenever we come up to deliver a quarterly progress report, it's time-bound, and this report goes from the time period of September 2012 to November 2012.
Good evening. Quarter one of the work on the Accelerated Improvement Plan this year had a more focused approach to plan implementation. There was a new student benchmarking system and data analysis system, and more directed effort to hold principals accountable for the work in schools. Although there have been challenges this year in Southbridge, as we all know, the work of connecting a through line from the district level to the school level to the classroom with the goal of improved student achievement for every student must be the district's highest priority this year. A detailed plan for improving classroom instruction is the next necessary step toward raising student achievement of subgroups as well as of the aggregate. This approach needs to be coupled with a new and directed focus on teacher evaluation and supervision, which will only come with the implementation of the new educator evaluation plan that is required of all Level 4 school districts in Massachusetts. However, at the writing of this document, this had not yet been ratified in Southbridge, and I believe it still has not been ratified. Is that the case?
I spoke with the union this afternoon, and they've agreed, and they ratified with a sunset clause for end of the year, so we could go into action, and then we would implement it, and then we would adjust it as necessary.
Terrific.
So it's good news today that they've agreed.
Great, great. The first strategic objective was to implement high-quality instructional programs aligned to the Massachusetts Common Core curriculum in ELA and math to support the achievement of all students. The math and ELA curriculum committees began their work last year, began their work to map and revise curriculum. Teachers were trained at the beginning of this year on the first few English language arts curriculum units as the others were being built. The math curriculum mapping has also begun. It's using an older set of textbooks, but identifying new curriculum resources to supplement those textbooks. All of the curriculum are online, and data shows that teachers at each school are accessing those online curriculum materials. The early evidence of change indicators in the short-term outcomes will change with the revision of the Accelerated Improvement Plan. There are revisions that had occurred on December 21st that I'm not going to report on tonight, but there will be some changing indicators of outcomes. So because of that, the comments that I'm going to make here tonight was work that was done and progress that was made, but I'm not going to link that evidence to specific benchmarks because, as I said, those benchmarks are shifting slightly. There were building walkthroughs focused on 3 areas this quarter: posting and teaching of meaningful objectives, the use of a variety of instructional techniques, and the engagement of students through the use of higher order questioning. The data indicates growth in the latter 2 areas, but fluctuation in the first. The posting and teaching of meaningful objectives fell from 72% of classrooms in September to 56% of classrooms in November, while the use of a variety of instructional techniques increased over the same period from 57% to 68%, and the use of higher order questions increased from 34% to 44% over that same period. Principals have been asked to be in classrooms often and to give feedback to teachers that will directly impact student achievement. And data shows that administrators observed each teacher this quarter an average of 6.4 times at Eastford School, 3.9 times at West, 3 times at Charlton, and 2.4 times at the middle high school. Formal district walkthroughs occurred this quarter in 4 schools, and baseline data on rigorous instruction was gathered, and we'll use that throughout the year to document progress. Part of this objective is the need for parent involvement. This includes having parents included in some school and district-based decisions. The English Language Learners Advisory Council had not met as of the writing of this report because of lack of attendance, and the Special Education PAC had only 5 parents attend their first meeting. Schools at the elementary level are having success in getting parents to come to literacy and math nights and participate in events with their children. Strategic objective number 2 is to establish a data-driven culture to support and monitor the achievement of all students. This year, Achievement Network benchmark testing was introduced in grades 2 to 10. Each school has a data team, and data coaches from ANET work with team members to support the analysis of data. Teachers are working together to identify gaps in their teaching and to develop reteaching plans. Evidence shows that 100% of students in grades kindergarten through 11 took interim assessments in math, and 100% of students in grades K to 8 took interim assessments in English language arts. The high school end of quarter reports show that although the high school has set a goal of 90% of students to be on target for completing all grade level requirements, in the 9th grade English language arts classes, only 80% are on target. In math, only 76%, and in science, 88%. Strategic objective number 3, to provide high-quality professional development programs to support the achievement of all students. Professional development was offered in a number of areas this year, including educator evaluation, achievement network benchmarking and data analysis, curriculum mapping, work in comprehension skills, writing and literacy, work with autistic children, understanding by design, English language learner and special education programming, wellness, PBIS behavioral management program, and WIDA, which is the new ELL program. With the uncertainty in district leadership, meetings with the principals had not been regularly held, but now that there's an interim superintendent, hopefully more guidance can be provided to principals. In summary, the Southbridge administration, particularly the new assistant superintendent, has approached this year's work on the Accelerated Improvement Plan with a new focus and determination. They're early in the plan, but they are addressing areas that have the potential to significantly improve student achievement. Principals are working hard, but need planned professional development to ensure that they all have the same focus and understanding of the strategies that they are now trying to implement in order to improve instruction in each classroom. The next steps: to develop and implement a detailed plan for improvement of classroom instruction that will be implemented and assessed in every classroom in Southbridge. Negotiate and implement the new educator evaluation system, holding every teacher accountable for ensuring that every student gets an excellent education. Develop a plan to provide focused professional development to all principals throughout the year on such topics as classroom observations, giving feedback, driving data discussions, and having difficult conversations, and then hold principals accountable to implement what they are learning. And finally, the through line from the district work to the school to the classroom should be clearly delineated and written so that everyone in the district understands how this will occur.
Thank you. Is there anyone with questions this evening? Mrs. Donovan?
Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies. Nice to see you. I want to just first off begin by just making a comment that it's so refreshing to hear that the AIP is now being looked at with a new focus. That is just wonderful news. It's so encouraging, and it's something that our committee as a whole needs to be proud of, our community needs to be proud of, and I think we need to thank Mr. Nebico for that. So, as working as a whole in conjunction with him and his support, I'm very grateful to hear that there is a new focus on the AIP. A couple of questions that I had were relative to the curriculum and the ANET benchmark assessments. Do you have the same packet that each one of us was received? I know, Dr. Bondo, I was kind of following along as you read. I don't know if you have the same exact one. And relative to curriculum, on page number 6, our objective number 3 is to provide high-quality professional development and support the achievement of all learners. Our evidence of progress tells us that although curriculum implementation has begun, the writing of the curriculum has not yet been completed. And I was a little confused by that. I think with the, and correct me if I'm wrong, whoever up here has the answer, with turning over to the new Mass Common Core standards, the frameworks have changed, and I think it gives the teachers a little bit more leeway on, they're giving a standard that needs to be taught. However, how they teach it or the tools that they use to teach that standard there's more subjectivity. So I wasn't sure if anybody could tell me when it said the writing of the curriculum has not yet been completed, what curriculum are we referring to and whose job is it to write that curriculum?
What the frameworks are an outline of what needs to be accomplished at each grade level. Each district is responsible for writing a curriculum, a robust curriculum, that includes not only the objectives, but how they will be accomplished, what materials and resources will be used, what approaches will be taken to differentiate instruction, how students who are special education students will be accommodated, and how English language learners will be accommodated, and what assessments will be used to determine if the curriculum guidelines have been met. Now, this process was started last spring. There was a math committee put in place and an English language arts committee put in place, and both of them worked over the summer.
Okay.
They did not finish their work, and they knew that they would not have the time to finish their work. They had talked to me about this prior to.
Okay.
They did have enough units in English Language Arts completed to train the teachers for the first quarter of the year. So before school started, there was a training period, and all teachers were trained on the beginnings of that curriculum. As the year has progressed, those committees have continued to meet. I don't know where they are right now, but they are ahead of the teachers, and they're training teachers as they go along. So they are writing what we call a robust curriculum document that fills in all of the areas in the frameworks. The frameworks are just a guide, but each district writes its own robust curriculum, and that's what they're in the process of doing.
Okay, very good. I understand. Thank you for clearing that for me. One of the new assessments that we've taken on this year is ANET, and again, I'm not sure if you're the right person to ask the question to, but I was just wondering, do we have a person from ANET that works with our teachers that once the test is given and the data is collected, that person from ANET can perhaps provide better tools for teachers on how to go back and reteach or replan? Are we getting the proper support systems once those tests have been taken? And it's very, very, very early to know that. I don't know what the follow-up is on the part of ANET, and that's just something I was curious about.
That's part of the package that ANET provides, and I'm sure that your superintendent will give you more information on this as you go along. But aside from providing the benchmark testing, they are committed to helping schools, district schools, and teachers to learn how to analyze that data and then apply it to their teaching. So they are working with data teams at each school, and they're working actually with individual teachers on those data plans, on the data teams. I believe that the way that the data teams are structured is that there is a representative from each grade on the data team, and then those teachers go back and meet with their teams. But I also believe that the coach, they call them data coaches from ANET, are available to help other teachers in the school as well. And what I have seen so far this year is that they are looking with teachers at a whole class level. So they're looking at the benchmarks, they're assessing to see what students did well in and what they did not do well in. And those things that they did not do well in, they're helping the teachers to develop what they call reteach plans, so that they won't get too far ahead before they come back and review that material and keep coming back to it. Then that material will get tested again. And it's a very iterative process. It's a very live process where there's the analysis of data, there's the reteaching, there's the testing, analysis of data, reteaching.
I think there's a lot of concern in our district that our kids are being over-tested, but based on your explanation, I think it's a wonderful thing, because when you take the MCAS in May, you do not receive your results until the fall, and by that time the child has moved on to another grade level, where here the response is immediate, and then the reteaching plan is immediate, and we're able to catch the issue sooner.
I can answer that. Yeah, ANET serves a valuable purpose for the school district, and they come in and they give us a test and provide the teachers how to work with that. I sat through a training session at Charlemont's school, and the coach was there going over an objective, how to teach it, how to reteach it, and so on. The critical aspect that's important for us is it allows us to have the testing, become data literate, and from the data they can now make assessments and put kids into areas and grouping based upon their strengths and their weaknesses. So it also focuses the teaching rather than generally teaching to the group. And the goal of ANET is to have all teachers being able to use the data effectively, talking about the data and the classroom instruction to each other, and then eventually what they're going to be able to do is have unit testing, common tests, and so on, to be able to prepare using all the information they've gotten. So it's a very intensive program. At first I was concerned there were so many things happening, but I took a good look at how they were doing it, and it's one of those things that will improve instruction in the classroom. It'll give the teachers, the administrators in the building the data they need to make informed decisions, and from that they can approach the kids' strengths, weaknesses, and come up with prescriptive lessons. So it's a good start, and they're here. They're here regularly, and they're training people to become the in-house experts. So when they leave, there'll be people in the building that know how to do this. And that's the critical part of sustainability that's missing in a lot of programs.
Excellent, thank you. If I may, Madam Chair, I just have one more question, and then I'll turn the floor over to another committee member. On page 6, our initiative 2.4 is to establish parent and community committees to support and monitor student achievement. Specifically, the ELL Advisory Commission was mentioned, as well as the SPED PAC. I didn't know if you were aware that this committee had approved a communication and family engagement subcommittee, which the purpose of that committee strictly is to engage parents, provide better communication, and also do a lot of community outreach. And I didn't know if it was possible to, at some point, perhaps provide you with our agendas or our minutes or examples, reports from our parent forums, that if that piece could be included, because I think that our committee has recognized that it is a very important part of our AIP, and that the subcommittee is working very hard to fulfill that requirement. So if that's something that additionally we can offer to you to better improve the overall appearance of our AIP, I would like to recommend that.
I would welcome that, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I'm all set, thank you.
Dr. D'Amico?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have a question directly pertaining to the report or our plan, but maybe a question for you as representatives of the agency, DESC. We have, specifically I have, quite a few times entertained a question whether or not ever would it be possible for the state not only to define the frameworks and the content that our students need to master, but provide guidance on unifying, curricular materials. A lot of very successful countries in the world, the state prescribes, these are your English books for grade 2, these are your, French books for grade 7, math books and whatnot. We all understand teachers are under so much pressure in adopting these changes that are relatively frequent, not only in Massachusetts, elsewhere as well, to retrain, to rewrite curricula. We wrote brand new curriculum for all the subjects over the past 5 years, and now we're doing it again, changing materials, changing the content. I just wonder, is the state at all thinking about providing a little more than frameworks, maybe more guidance on how do we get our students to really master that kind of unifying?
Yes, that's a really good question. And the state is working on such components. So as Dr. Banda explained, and many of you know, it takes a lot more to develop a comprehensive curriculum than just having curriculum frameworks. There are a lot of components to a comprehensive curriculum. So to that end, the state is creating some model curriculum units that map on to our curriculum frameworks. Those are being posted shortly. We're also working on a set of assessments that are aligned to those frameworks that can be used in formative, as formative assessments throughout the year. And so we are working on disseminating some of those components because we know that each district has been working on their own to develop their own curriculum.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome, nice to see you. Just a question on one particular standard. Objective 1, Initiative 1.3, indicates, I'm just going to read it, the posting and teaching of meaningful objectives fell from 72% of classrooms in September to 56% of classrooms in November. And there's good news, too. While the use of instructional techniques increased over the same period and the use of higher order questions increased, I'm curious about this drop, though, from the 72% to the 56%. Do we know if that is over the district? Is that largely due to one particular school or one particular area? Do we know what that drop is attributable to?
It wouldn't be at one particular school. This is over the district.
Okay.
So this is the cumulative data that was received through walkthroughs that principals had done.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, dear ladies, thank you very much for coming this evening, and have a safe trip home.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say that I met Friday with Ms. Foisey, who was the other commissioner, and Lisa Zayek with monitors and so on, and we had a very good conversation and very candidly reviewed all of the things we have. I'm meeting again with Paul and Nadine next week to review all of this so we can accomplish the focused plan that they have before us, and we can work very closely with the state, because they're the ones that are eventually going to evaluate how successful we are so we can get out of our level 4 status. So we're looking forward to working with you, and I think everyone is willing to cooperate 110% to ensure that we all do the best, which eventually just helps the kids. So thank you very much. The state's been very helpful in this.
Thank you. Good partner.
Thank you, and we wish you luck in your new venture.
Why are you laughing? Moving on to agenda item number 11, report of the superintendent, Mr. Nevico.
Yes, in front of you, you have an update on the hires, the resignations, retirements, and dismissals that Mr. Wiggins graciously prepared for us, and it has from September to 18th of this month, so it'll get us all up to date. We'll know exactly what changes were made, and you'll be getting these on a regular basis.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item number 12, report of Director of Finance and Operations. A, the financial report, Mr. Wiggins.
The financial report is in your packet. Just very briefly for the public, I'm currently projecting a fund balance of $60,264 and 67 cents. One of the reasons for the big change from the December report is I have some more information, so I've tried to project some of those expenditures that, in December we knew were out there but couldn't necessarily put a hard number to. And some of those, for example, were, some of the administrative costs that we have. I think we have a little better handle on the heating budget, little more knowledge about how the middle high school is operating, so obviously we can project utilities there a little bit better. I have factored in the revenue from the Worcester Community Action Council lease, i.e. the Head Start lease, which is in your packet tonight for approval. And it does project releasing some
I feel like Beyonce.
It does project releasing some additional supply funds to try and meet some critical needs in instructional supplies and textbooks. And other than that, I guess I would yield to questions.
Anyone? Questions? Mrs. McLaughlin?
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Wiggin. Mr. Wiggin, I read through this report and looked at the budget, and I know we have a budget meeting this Thursday evening at 6:30, Dr. DeVinco. Thank you for that. So I'm just a couple of things stand out to me. Oh, first of all, the date of this report, it says prepared 1/16/12. I'm assuming that's just typo.
That is a typo.
Okay, thank you. On page 3 of 15, the teacher salary sick leave buyback,
Yes.
originally budgeted at $91,000, is projected to be, there's a rather large deficit.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering if, I don't know.
It's a good, I appreciate the question. It's a good question, and it allows me to explain the note. I believe, and I hope I put a note there.
Journal entry.
That it says it will journal entry some of those salaries to federal fund, to basically grants. What happens is salaries are carried in this account until we get some final grant approval. We have that. We're in the process of doing those journal entries now. So that number will go down, and that's why you see that number being reduced by a substantial amount of money. The $323,285 basically going away, because all of those funds will be journal entry to grants such as Title I, Title IIA, IDEA, a number of different grants.
Okay. Thank you for that. And may I ask one more question? On page 10 of 15, I was looking at the general activities funds for the schools,
Yes.
and Eastford Road School is a tenth of the other elementary schools. And I don't know why that would be. The other two are even at $9,300. Eastford Road is $725.
Eastford Road, for the most part, has, and we didn't budget, frankly, a lot of money for Eastford Road this year, because it is a pre-K school, typically does not have some of the more expensive activities, if you will. For example, the Charlton Street and West Street are putting on a play. So we have the licensing for the play, we have the advisors and so forth. Not necessarily saying that it's the right thing to do. I think it would be wonderful to, fund more activities at Eastford Road School, and I suspect the principal would like to have that happen. But that is how we budgeted this year, is our focus was really to increase the number of activities at West and at Charlton Street after the restructuring.
Okay, that's something I'd like to discuss, the budget meeting on Thursday. Thank you, though. Thank you for that.
Dr. D'Amico?
If I can just briefly, and that's solely my opinion, when you look through the budget, if you look through the recast budget that kind of summarizes from what accounts certain things are covered for a variety of schools, it turns out that Eastford Road as a pre-KK school qualifies for at least, I think, 5 different grant types. Kindergarten enrichment and preschool this, and I don't even know the names, but Terry know what I'm talking about. And if you look through the recast, there's a number of resources that we can take advantage of for that very particular school that are not available for other elementary schools. So I think part of that pot of money is offsetting some of the things that you might be talking about. I'm not trying to justify why our operating budget should be treating any school any different, but at least I feel reassured because I know the resources may be available for them that other schools don't have.
Yes, thank you.
And yes, we will discuss this on
Yeah,
Thursday.
the other thing is on this FY14 budget, Terry and I have been working on this in that these line items, you see here, it will be followed by another page or two with explanations and so on, and you'll see the 3-year growth or change period. As you said, early childhood education, pre-KK gets a number of grants, and for example, inclusive school learning programs, Title I's, supplemental support, early childhood special education. There's a whole host of things that are in there that does that, and then when you look at the few dollars that you have available for programs, you try to put up where it'll do the greatest good with the least amount of other supports. But I think it's really important that the budget will have the line items there, we'll have a justification for it, and then and the plus or minus of the changes and so on. So it'll be quite clear. So Thursday night we'll also be able to take care of a lot of things.
Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next agenda, which is the school committee action. A, move that the Southbridge School Committee approve a lease between the Southbridge Public School District and the Worcester Community Action Council dated January 7th, 2013, for an initial term ending on June 30th, 2023, with additional terms and conditions outlined in the lease document, and to authorize the acting superintendent to sign said lease document. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. I have a motion by Mr. Lazo, a second by Dr. D'Amico. Any discussion? Dr. D'Amico.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to our business manager. What account would this revenue go to? Does this belong to school-owned revolving accounts, or is this essentially town revenue that we need to renegotiate?
This is school funds, goes into the school facilities revolving fund, and then from that fund, we use that to offset costs, for example, custodian, heat, lights, that sort of thing.
Thank you.
Mr. Lazo?
I'd just like to thank Terry for adjusting on the, what we call the early termination clause, which protects the tenant and the landlord. Terry, the only question I have is, if WCAC to terminate the lease with a 60-day notice, but we have to give them a 1 year's notice. Why couldn't we make that the same? I'm just a curiosity question. I know.
Well, I think the issue is for us, if Worcester County, if Head Start decides to move out, 60 days is ample time for us to do whatever we need to do for the building, because we're still going to own the building. But for Head Start, if we say to Head Start, you need to move out, 60 days really does not give them ample time to find another location. And I think as we talked about it, as I talked about it with Jill DeGillis, the executive director, we talked frankly about the fact that there might come a time where we would need that space because of growing schools or whatever. But we also would probably be able to anticipate that a year in advance with our population projections. So that is why we propose that. And I've had similar types of one-year notices in other districts. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mrs. Donovan?
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Through you to Mr. Wigan. Mr. Wigan, I have a bunch of questions, but some of them pertain to the original memo that we had received at our last meeting.
Okay.
I'll start there, and then I'll go to the memo for tonight. In your last meeting, last memo, you had stated that obviously we have students there, and that separate from our food service lease, we'll be providing food for these children and perhaps bringing in YMC daycare.
Right.
Feeding them as well. I just didn't know, at this point, do you know how many students are part of that Head Start program and how many mouths we are feeding, and is that?
There's 134 directly on site. There's another 80 plus or minus that we feed at their Oxford site. And then the YMCA program is relatively small. I believe it's under 25.
And how many meals a day are we feeding them? Is it just breakfast, or is it breakfast and lunch?
It's basically, there is breakfast, there is lunch, and there is a snack.
Okay.
And all of those are reimbursed under federal meals programs. Okay. And that's essentially the revenue that we get.
Okay, thank you. That's the questions I had from the old memo. The new memo, I think, just seeing that Mr. Lazo just talked about it, I'd like to just jump to that new section 21 in the lease where it mentions the early termination due to loss of funding. The paragraph that I read there very clearly states that they do in fact need to give us 60-day notice. However, I could not find anywhere the part where we have to give the 1-year notice. It's in your memo, but I couldn't find that specific language in the lease. And I assume that we might, I don't know if we need it in there.
Get us somewhere, hang on. Because that was due to loss of funding on their part.
Right. I may have quoted the wrong section, but I'll be honest with you, if it's not in there, I need to go back to
Couldn't find it anywhere in the lease.
I do not see it in 21. And I need to find out from my attorney, the attorney who drafted it.
Should it be incorporated with the 15.2? termination by notice. It doesn't, it should be in that one, I thought. Unless that strictly defaults.
That's defaults.
Okay.
Does this come from Merrick O'Connell?
This comes from Merrick O'Connell.
This would really surprise me that it's not somewhere.
And Merrick O'Connell was the one who indicated to me that he had put it in.
Do you want to make a motion to postpone it?
I make a motion to postpone to
Yes,
the next meeting.
I would agree.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Lazo and a second by Dr. Domingo to postpone. Mrs. McLaughlin?
I have a question. I have some other concerns. Should we postpone and air them to a later point, or get them out of the way now, so when the vote is postponed? I'm not sure. Do we do
Yeah.
that at discussion point, or?
Well, we're in the discussion
Okay.
point, so we can hold off the motion to postpone until we're done with discussion.
Okay.
And so if Mrs. Donovan's all set, then we can go on to Mrs. McLaughlin. If not, Mrs. Donovan, you still have the floor.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Mrs. McLaughlin, I have a couple more questions. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to start with page 2, section 1.9, the extension terms. I'm sorry, Madam Chair, through you to Mr. Wigan. I just wanted to have it clarified that the extension term, I just want to make sure that I read this right, that the initial contract is for 10 years with the possibility of re-upping for another 10, so there's a potential of 20 years. Is that what we're looking at? Okay.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you for that. The next question I had, again, which is something new that was entered into this lease as opposed to the old lease that we were given 2 weeks ago, section 1.11 on the base rent. Your memo had stated that we're showing a 1%.
This is the incorrect lease.
I'm sorry?
This is the incorrect lease. You have the old lease here.
Right.
I just noted, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut off your question, but I just realized when I looked at this, you're looking at the old lease. I apologize, you have the wrong lease in your packet. But continue your questions, please.
Okay.
Do you have the old one? You have two different ones in front?
I have
Oh,
two
sorry.
different ones, but the one that I'm reading from is the one that was stapled to the memo.
The
That was in
lease
our
in my
packet.
packet is the old lease.
That's what I have, an old lease. This is the old lease
Why
with 20
don't we
years.
just hold off and get all this done once?
All right, why don't,
Madam Chairman, can we
yes,
postpone
we
to
will
the next meeting?
postpone. So we had a motion to postpone by Mr. Lazo and a second by Dr. Domingo. We'll have a roll call on the postponement.
Yes.
Yes.
Dr. O'Leary? Mrs. Woodruff?
Yes.
Dr. Domingo?
Yes.
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
5 yes.
So we'll postpone this to our February 12th meeting, and we'll have all the correct documents sent out well in advance. Mrs. McLaughlin, Donovan.
Yeah,
sorry.
thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question. I know, through you to Mr. Wigan, I know that we're kind of behind the 8 ball already because the people have been in there since the 7th of January. Is this a problem if we keep putting it off, or do we have enough?
Oh, the commencement date on the
I'm just
lease is...
concerned, what if something happens on the premises and we don't have a lease signed yet?
Well, we certainly have the insurance documents from WCAC,
Okay,
okay? And the commencement date on the lease, regardless of when you approve it, the commencement date is January 7th.
okay,
So I'm not concerned.
okay. All right, thank you very much.
Mr. Lazo?
That was the question I
That
was going to ask.
question,
Thank you.
okay. All right, moving on to agenda item 14, unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business this evening? Mr. Lazo?
I just want to thank the superintendent for opening up the lines of communication with some of the data that we got in our packets with the budget and with the new hires, resignations, retirements, dismissals. reason why we're hiring certain positions. It really clears the air and brings transparency and eliminates a lot of questions with all this information. I just wanted to thank the superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other unfinished business this evening? Mrs. Donovan?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, to you. I was just Faith. I saw that she left early tonight, but at our last meeting, she was talking about the TV production equipment that didn't arrive for her production class, and I was just wondering if anybody had followed up and could give us an update on the equipment pertaining to that class.
Yes. Mr. Wiggins, do you have an update for us on that?
Order has been placed by both the school district and the town. That was a piece of that was from the cable company, so the town had to place part of that order. So I think right now we're hoping that that will be installed and ready to use after February vacation.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much. Another question that I have, Madam Chair, through you to Mr. Neberko. At our last meeting, you talked about the crisis response training that was taking place at the middle high school on January 9th that led to the rescheduling of the parent-teacher conferences, et cetera. I think I've been hearing at these parent forums that we've been holding that there is some confusion as to whether or not, or confusion as to who the people were specifically in the building during training time. And I didn't know if you knew the answer to that. Is it specifically for crisis response teams, or were there teachers and administrators in the building as well?
This was a training organized by the Southbridge Police Department and the chief, which is a regional training for an active shooter response. And the state police and SWAT teams were involved, and they wanted to get the physical plant identified. If there was anything happening over there, they would know what the building looks like, where the doors are, where possible things were doing. So it was a regional planning effort for them, and that they would be able to respond. The building, it was planned extremely well. When I looked around, all the doors are numbered. So if there is a fire or anything, it'd be door number 19 rather than trying to do this. They wanted to come in, and so they set up a simulation of a hostage situation. I didn't want to go into that at length because of the sensitivities of the nation and the community regarding all of that. And that's another reason why we had to postpone it, because they were using blanks in the building, setting off charges and so on, as if they also need training. And this was their professional development, and in a school that is brand new to them, and so they wanted to be inside that building. So it was an important training, and went off without a hitch that I was aware of. They went off.
The only reason why I brought it up, I think there's a misconception out there that teachers were supposed to be part of the training, and it was my understanding they were not. And people are saying because they were not there, they're giving the teachers a bad rap for not caring and not showing up, but they were not part of the training to begin with, and I wanted to clarify that.
After Columbine in 1999, I think all school superintendents and districts throughout the nation were very trained extensively, and some of the lessons they learned from Columbine was how to set up a crisis response team, where to set up an information place, who to get involved with, and so on. So they totally changed the training for police departments around the nation, and so they constantly keep updating that training because situations change, and then when you have a new building, a new plant, they need to become acquainted with that, and so they know where the classrooms are, where the doors are, and the physical features of it. So but teachers are never involved in a kind of a crisis response because they're not trained for that. So it's best to have the professionals who are doing it respond to it and work from there. Even the superintendent, for example, my training was that they would take us off-site into a command post, and then someone would speak for us. So information, obviously people get, what happened at Columbine was parents came storming into the building. You know, and for good reason, because they had heard that there was a shooting, they went to get their kids. So that's one of the things you have to be able to control.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm all set. Thank you for the explanation. I appreciate it.
Mr. Lazo?
Just a quick comment on the same subject as the chairman of the building committee. When the site was constructed and building, Chief Charette and Public Safety were brought in, right down to what type of lenses he wanted to identify license plate numbers at a distance, road accesses, and all types of public safety stuff, which is basically out of the realm of a lot of the people that were at the table. And I think Chief Charette did a good job, and I know the fire department also. So the building from the beginning of construction to date has been specified from public safety, what we should have, what we should do. And now, I was impressed that they were doing the training in Southbridge. I thought that was a great asset.
They all have the computers, they have a blueprint of the building, so they know exactly where to go, so time is not wasted and lives are not at risk.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. On two prior agendas, one of the middle high school assistant principals was on the agenda, so she could be introduced. And I was wondering, it wasn't on this agenda, if that can be done at another time.
Yes, one of the things we want to discuss, and you can discuss this, is a set of presentations. The questions, for example, that were asked regarding the implementation of the Accelerated Improvement Plan. We have people working on it, so through the chair, if you give me a calendar, not a calendar, what activities you would like presented to you, now I can go and make a presentation, because pupil personnel service is waiting on deck, ready to go, okay? And I know that was one of them. ELL was another area where people were concerned with, and so on, so we could have all of that done in an orderly manner. And then Ms. Carroll, we can have her come to be introduced.
Thank you.
I'm being introduced to the town council next Monday.
Wonderful.
Yeah, if anybody wants to send me an email of things that they're looking forward to seeing, I know I have a few things myself, just please email me, and each meeting, we'll put a couple on the agenda until we get through all of them.
Yeah.
Okay? Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yeah, I'm sorry, one more thing related to security. One of the things that has come up at the parent forums is parents would like to know what is currently in place or is being planned for security enhancements to the schools. Some I'm sure you can talk about, some you can't speak to, and I'm not asking for that specifically tonight, but I think parents want to be reassured that's the sense we're getting.
I think one of the best ways to approach it is, and I'll talk with the chief, if Chief Charette and I meet with parents who are at particular schools who are concerned about that, so we can go over that with the principals and then answer questions regarding their specific security concerns, that particular age group, because they all vary. Situation in pre-KK is very different than the high school. So rather than trying to say we're doing all of this, I think it's best for us to spend a few afternoons out meeting with the parents. So through your committee, that would be one of those things. I already put down the 28th at 9 o'clock at the high school, because I think I need to be there, because that's an area of concern. So security is something that all parents, first and foremost, is my child safe? And we have to assure them to the best of our ability. We're doing everything we can to ensure that.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Moving on to agenda item 15, new business. The next regular school committee meeting will be held on February 12th, 2013, here at the council chambers. Any other new business this evening? Mrs. McLaughlin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say that last Wednesday evening, the school committee met regarding a matter, and I left that meeting feeling, after speaking very frankly with my fellow school committee members here, feeling very good. I just want to say and thank all of them, Dr. Domingo, Mr. Lazo, Mrs. Donovan, Mrs. Woodruff, Mrs. Principe is not here, and Dr. O'Leary. I felt for the first time, really, we were all on the same page and all unified in our commitment to move this district forward. And I just want to thank them publicly for that. And I'm really excited about where we're headed in this district under the leadership that we have under Mr. Nembrico, and I thank him for that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move on. There will be no executive session this evening, so I'll need a motion for adjournment, please.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Thank you, everyone, and have a great night.
Stay warm.
Yeah, warm.
O'Leary.